So I'm actually working on something really big right now. Hi guys, what's up? My name is David and welcome back to my channel. I've been busy doing this for a while now, and I don't know why I haven't talked about this because it's actually my main project, I guess, that's going on behind the scenes. So I'm writing my bachelor's thesis. And for those of you who didn't know, I study Scandinavian studies. I'm just about to go represent my study at the open day of my university. And a bachelor's thesis is basically your first slightly bigger research project that prepares you for your future academic career, or is the end of your bachelor's program if you are not planning to pursue a further education. But I do, so for me this is just the beginning, and for some people it's the end. It's a nice transition period. And I, if you didn't know by now, I'm interested in Vikings and the way they are presented in the 21st century. I know this is so shocking. I don't think you might have ever guessed this, but I'm writing my thesis on the representation of stereotypical views of the Vikings in the Viking Museum in Stockholm. So if this is very weird and specific, let me explain. So there is this object that is kind of half tourist attraction, half museum, that positions themselves as a place where myths about the Viking Age get busted. You get the true history and what really happened, you know? And I was on exchange at Stockholm University last year, so of course I visited this place, and it is really like a more of a popular thing than a museum, in the same way that Historiska in Stockholm has a huge Viking artifact collection. But I do think that the information presented in the Viking Museum is actually pretty decent, and it lets people think about the views that they might hold about who the Vikings are, and it's like made for people who are only visiting as tourists and don't have that much interest in the Vikings, or they do, but this interest comes from media representations. And what I do when I visit museums is make pictures of the textual information. I don't know why, this is just something that I'm interested in, and for this research project it has actually come in handy because this is now my data. I am going to do a critical discourse analysis focusing on the language use when describing stereotypical views, and see if this goal of this museum to like present myths more accurately, because their whole motto is where myth meets truth, and just see how these topics of myth and truth are constructed textually. And why I want to look at stereotypes per se is, I guess everyone just like knows what a stereotype is and it's not made explicit. So I do want to do that and say that stereotypical views are when a characteristic is assigned to a social group, and this characteristic is then seen as applying to all members of that social group. And research on stereotypes has generally focused on like things like discrimination and racism, suggesting that stereotypes are always negative. But there are also stereotypical views about the Vikings that come from a 19th century nationalist idealized version of the image of the Viking, meaning that there are a lot of what some people might call positive stereotypes about the Viking Age. So it's just very interesting how this research that generally talks about discrimination can be applied to actually like an idealized version of a historical group that is also just simply an imagined community, because the Vikings were not a coherent group. That's a label that was put onto some people from Scandinavia from the early Middle Ages slash late Iron Age. But I thought this would be interesting to research, not only to see what views of the Vikings are just so seen as obvious that they're not even thought about as stereotypical, and also the way in which these views are expressed through language. And this is, of course, highly specific, and a lot of people have questions whether studies like this are useful to society. Well, I think it would show how stereotypical views are communicated even when the writers of the text that I'm analyzing have as their explicit goal to present a more accurate view. So even if they want to bust existing myths, it's interesting to see whether they are actually busted or if new ones are created that fit better into the framework of 21st century Sweden. So yeah, I'm saying all this because I'm just in my beginning phase. I only have to write my introduction right now, and it's due in June. But I wanted to share because I'm very interested to hear what you guys think about a topic like this, and if there's any random thoughts that come to mind when you hear me talking about this, because I just need to discuss this, and this channel has been actually a great place to just talk about my ideas. But I really appreciate it if I get something back, and there's so many of you that actually genuinely listen to what I have to say and have your own opinions, and I'm so thankful for you guys. So if there's anything that just comes to mind when you hear all these topics, if there's anything you would like to know more, if you have any more questions, then please feel free to reach out to me either in the comments or follow me on Instagram and leave me a message. But yeah, I will probably talk about this again sometime in the future when I have a bit more period. But for now, it's just searching for how I'm going to do this all, and it's a big project, so it takes a lot of time, and it's good that I already have data from last year, so that I don't have to look for it. I just have to look at it. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.